Hello, my name is John, and today we're going to be talking about how to take more interesting photographs. This is something I struggled with a lot in the beginning. I would look at my photographs and think that there was something missing, but I couldn't exactly tell you what it was. And it was later on when I discovered the concept of story that I finally realized, this is the thing that I was missing. But I had a hard time finding the information that I needed to sort of learn how to do it. So that's what this video is going to be all about. It's going to be all about how to tell a story with your photographs and what that means, because it's sort of a confusing concept. And so we're going to take a moment here to kind of break it down and give you the tools that you need to actually implement this and use it in your photographs. All right, before we get started, let me quickly say that this is part of a 4-part photography composition series. If you want to watch the earlier videos, those are available in the description below. If you don't care about that, that's fine. Just continue on with this one. Okay, so what is a story? I think ultimately a story is just a way to distill really complicated and complex information down into something simple, a simple narrative. I think personally this is because over thousands of years of human history, this is how information was shared. You would sit around with your elders and they would explain to you your culture, the world around you, and they would do that through story. And so your brain is sort of naturally inclined to understand things through story. What is story? Story is ultimately a question, right? Because at some point you don't understand something. Someone tells you a story and then that story provides the answer. So it sort of always begins with a question. And I think that's what we're going to go over a number of times here in the examples coming up. But a story also usually has 3 parts: an introduction of some kind, and then a conflict or the unfolding of events of some kind, and then a conclusion to sort of answer the question. The nice thing is your photographs only need one of those parts, because your viewer, handily enough, will basically fill in the rest of the information for you. They'll begin asking questions and they'll sort of generate their own narrative, their own introduction, or their own conclusion based on what they see in your photo. So just remember, you only need one of those parts, and the thing to really focus on is the question part. So let's look at some examples here and let's kind of see a little bit about how this works. I'm just going to run through a bunch, and some good ones and then some bad ones as well. All right, so in this first example, this is a picture of a sand dune. And this is actually not a very good story photo, in my opinion. These are all my photos. It's pretty, it's interesting from that aspect. There's some good light here, but this was something that I was doing a lot in the beginning of my photography, is finding something beautiful and then taking a well-composed image of it. And I like this photo, but it's not a good story photo. And the reason is that it doesn't really make me wonder much of anything. It doesn't conclude something, it doesn't introduce something, it doesn't show something happening. It's just a pretty sand dune in the desert somewhere. Same thing with this photo. It's of a mountain. I have tons of photos of mountains, and the sky is pretty. And so there's nothing wrong with these photographs. If you like taking these kinds of photographs, don't think of it as you're doing something incorrect or anything like that. But they're not good story photos, and they're not super compelling because they don't really bring you in such a way as to make you wonder more about the photograph. So as you're taking photographs and as you're working on story, just remember that, like, sometimes just because something is beautiful doesn't always mean it's going to make a super compelling photograph. All right, this is, I think, one of my better story photographs, and we were out camping, and my friend here is training his dog. She was jumping up and down on this log here, and he was giving her treats, and she happened to just look over at me while I was taking this photograph, and it kind of worked out perfectly. The edit isn't great. It's not my favorite edit ever, but that's okay. The reason there's a story here is it's definitely asking a question. What is this dog doing on this stump? Why is the dog looking directly at the viewer? What is this guy doing with the dog? Why are they outside? There's tons of questions that get introduced when you look at this photograph, and that's what you want, because people will see all kinds of different things when they look at it. And that's the beauty of photography, is that you can have an idea of what you want to introduce, but as long as you've got a question or a number of questions in the photo, your viewer will sort of take their own path through the photograph, and they will kind of make up their own story. So there's one example. Here's another one. On a trip, we were in Death Valley driving through the park, and we stopped to take some photographs, and I saw my friend walking back to his truck here. He's holding his camera. An event is unfolding. So this would be like not the introduction, but the conflict part, right? Something is unfolding and happening in this photograph, and we can see that there's a guy and there's a truck and they're up in elevation and there's some mountains here and he's walking, and so I can begin to wonder, what are they doing? Are they on an adventure? Is this like some sort of expedition? Are they taking photos for a company? Like what's going on? Again, the question, introducing a question. I find this is a lot more easy to do, or a lot easier to do with people than with anything else, but I have some examples in here that are of more like still life kind of objects. So next example is in a cave, and I like this one because the light is coming down on these two people. One has a camera, and I think it just immediately I wonder where they are and what is this cave. It turns out it's a lava tube in a very previously volcanic area, and yeah, I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. You immediately sort of wonder what's going on here and why they're there and how they got there and where they are. A lot of my photos do that, is they just ask the question of where are we? This is interesting, an interesting looking place. Where is this unfolding? Where is this happening? Here's an example of one without a person in it. And I think the question here is, one, as I stated earlier, where are we? But also there's this juxtaposition in this photo of all this green and yellow, like foliage, grass and stuff. And then this house like tucked away in the back here. And it's also painted red and white and blue, and it like really pops out from the kind of the surroundings. And immediately I just wonder, why is this house in this particular spot? Why is it painted in that way? Where are we? Like I do wonder a lot of things. I still wonder these things actually, because I don't know. I was just walking by this location and I saw the photograph. The light was good. So yeah, you can definitely still do this with objects, with houses, with architecture and things like that. The question format does still work. Here's the last two examples I'll go over here. So this was on the beach, kind of on a raised area, and it came across one of these like lifeguard towers, and there was a bunch of people kind of milling about here doing stuff. And I love this as a story photo because there's a woman standing on sort of the ramp going up to this tower with her dog, and she's taking a photo. I can't quite tell if she's got like a suitcase or wearing a dress. I'm not entirely sure. And there's some other people sort of milling about, and I'm not quite sure what they're doing. This looks like some kind of summer evening or something. Everyone's enjoying themselves. I don't know. It makes me wonder where this place is and what these people are doing kind of around this structure. And interestingly enough, if we move to the next photo, it's of the same structure, like I don't know how much later. Let's look back here. I don't know, maybe 20, 30 minutes later, all the people are gone. And now it asks a very different question. And I feel differently looking at this photograph. It feels kind of empty, maybe a little bit sad. And I wonder, what was this structure used for? Is it abandoned? What's happened here? And again, the questions. But in the first photo, the questions are more about the people and their interaction with it. And I feel kind of warm and happy and relaxed. And in the second photo, I feel a little bit, I don't know, despondent or kind of curious about like what has unfolded here such that there's no one around anymore. So keep in mind that as you're taking photographs, what you decide to include and not include in the photo not only tells a story, but makes people feel a certain thing about that story too. And with time and experience, you'll get a handle of how to include or exclude items to evoke certain kinds of emotions and things. That's it. Hopefully that was helpful. I know there's a lot to story and it's pretty complicated, but maybe some of those tips were useful to you to just kind of, in summary, a question is the thing that you want to introduce in your photographs. You want people to be wondering what's happening in the photo. Where are those people going? Where is this place? What is unfolding? What is happening? That's the biggest part. So the last thing I'll say before I wrap up is that now that I've reached the end of this series, none of this information should be taken as rules. They're photographs. Photography is art, and it's subjective, and you're allowed to agree with me or disagree with me or to do things this way or to do things that way. No one can tell you that your photograph isn't good because it doesn't include some element or thing that I've talked about. Go out there, enjoy learning, enjoy taking your photographs, and the more you practice, the better you're going to get, and the more you're going to like the photographs that you take, no matter what rules they do or don't follow. So thanks for watching, and take care.